Brianna Jefferson pressed her trembling hand against the cold glass door of Summit Tech Industries, her breath fogging the surface as she stared at the chaos inside. It was 2:47 a.m., and the entire top floor blazed with light. Through the transparent walls of the main conference room, she could see at least 30 people crowded around a projection screen that dominated the far wall. Lines of code scrolled across it in angry red text, each failed attempt adding to the growing sense of doom that filled the space. She should have gone home hours ago. Her cleaning shift ended at midnight, but something kept her rooted to this spot on the sidewalk, watching through the windows as the most brilliant minds in technology struggled with a problem she had already solved in her head. The CEO stood at the center of it all. Tyler Harrison. 35 years old, worth billions, and currently running his hands through his dark hair in a gesture of pure frustration. He wore a blue dress shirt with the sleeves rolled up, his tie abandoned somewhere in the room behind him. Even from outside, Brianna could see the exhaustion etched into his face. He had been at this for 3 days straight. A woman in a red blazer was shouting now, pointing at the screen. Brianna couldn't hear the words, but she recognized the body language. Another expert admitting defeat. Another consultant adding their name to the list of 5,000 people who had tried and failed to crack this code. 5,000 experts. The number made Brianna feel dizzy. Mathematicians from MIT. Programmers from Silicon Valley. Code breakers who had worked for government agencies. Consultants who charged $10,000 an hour just to look at a problem. All of them had examined the algorithm that would complete Summit Tech's revolutionary software, and all of them had walked away shaking their heads. The contract deadline was 3 p.m. today. In less than 12 hours, Summit Tech would lose a $500 million deal with the Department of Defense. More than that, they would lose their reputation. Tyler had promised his software could revolutionize data security. He had staked everything on this project. And now it was dying because of one small section of code that refused to cooperate. Brianna shifted her weight, the handle of her mop bucket cutting into her palm. She wore the standard green janitorial uniform, her name badge reading B. Jefferson, in plain black letters. Her natural hair was pulled back in a simple bun. She carried no briefcase, no laptop, no credentials that would convince anyone she belonged in that room. But she knew the answer. She had seen it 2 hours ago when she was emptying the trash cans. The code had been up on the screen then too, and Tyler had been explaining the problem to a new batch of consultants. Brianna had been bent over a wastebasket, invisible as always, listening to every word. And in that moment, the pattern had revealed itself to her as clearly as if someone had drawn it in the air. The solution was simple. So simple that everyone had looked past it, searching for complexity that didn't exist. The algorithm was trying to do too much at once. It needed to be broken into 2 separate functions that could talk to each other. One to handle encryption, one to handle authentication. The authentication needed to happen first, then pass its results to the encryption with a 3-second delay to prevent collision. That was it. That was the answer everyone had missed. Brianna had stood there with her hand frozen on the trash bag, understanding flowing through her like electricity. She wanted to speak up, to tell them, but the words stuck in her throat. Who was she to interrupt? She was the janitor. She cleaned their offices and emptied their coffee cups and made sure their bathrooms had soap. Nobody asked janitors for their opinions on quantum encryption algorithms. So she had finished her shift in silence, riding the elevator down to the basement where she stored her cleaning supplies. She had clocked out, walked to the parking lot, sat in her old car for 20 minutes trying to convince herself to drive home. But her conscience wouldn't let her leave. Now here she stood, watching through the window as time ran out. Watching as Tyler dismissed another group of experts with a polite handshake and a tired smile that didn't reach his eyes. Watching as his dream crumbled because she was too afraid to speak up. A man in a dark suit brushed past her on the sidewalk, nearly knocking her over. He didn't apologize. He didn't even see her. Just another invisible worker in the city that never stopped moving. Brianna straightened up, gripping her mop bucket tighter. Inside the conference room, Tyler was alone now except for 2 of his senior engineers. They stood on either side of him, all 3 men staring at the screen like it might suddenly reveal its secrets. Tyler's shoulders sagged. One of the engineers put a hand on his shoulder and said something. Tyler nodded slowly, then shook his head. The body language was clear. They were giving up. Brianna felt her heart clench. This company had given her a job when she desperately needed one. The pay was fair. The benefits were decent. Tyler himself had a reputation for treating every employee with respect, from the executives to the cleaning staff. She had heard stories about him giving bonuses to custodial workers during the holidays, about him learning people's names and asking about their families. And she was standing outside with the solution to his biggest problem, too scared to knock on the door. The question gnawed at her. What would you do if you had the answer that could save someone's dream but nobody would believe you? Would you stay silent to protect yourself, or would you risk everything for the chance to help? If you believe in the power of kindness and taking chances on people, subscribe and let me know in the comments what you would do in Brianna's situation. Your support helps me share more stories about hope and love winning against all odds. Brianna made her decision. She set down her mop bucket carefully on the sidewalk, right next to a parking meter. Her hands were shaking as she reached for the door handle. The glass was still cold under her fingers, but this time she pulled it open. The rush of air-conditioned air hit her face as she stepped into the marble lobby. The security guard at the desk looked up, surprised. "Brianna? Thought you went home already." "Forgot something upstairs," she said, her voice barely steady. "Won't be long." He waved her through without question. She had been working here for 3 months. She was familiar, trusted, invisible in all the ways that mattered until now. The elevator ride to the 15th floor felt like it took a year. Brianna watched the numbers light up one by one, each floor bringing her closer to a moment that would either change everything or confirm that she should have stayed invisible. Her reflection stared back at her from the polished metal doors. She looked scared. She looked tired. She looked like someone who had cleaned offices for 10 years and dreamed of being something more. The doors opened with a soft chime. The conference room was straight ahead, its glass walls offering no privacy. Tyler was pacing now, one hand pressed to his forehead. The engineers had pulled up chairs and were typing on laptops, probably documenting the failure for the company records. Brianna's shoes squeaked slightly on the polished floor as she walked toward them. The sound made Tyler look up. His eyes met hers through the glass, confusion crossing his face. She could see him trying to place her, recognize her as someone who belonged in this building at 3 a.m. She reached the door. Her hand closed around the handle. This was it. The moment of truth. Either she walked through this door and spoke up, or she turned around and went home and spent the rest of her life wondering what might have been. Brianna pushed open the door and stepped inside. 3 faces turned toward her. 3 sets of eyes, looking at the janitor who had just interrupted their crisis. "I'm sorry," Brianna said, forcing the words past her fear. "But I think I can help." 3 months earlier, Brianna had stood in the HR office of Summit Tech Industries, trying not to let her desperation show. The woman across the desk, a friendly supervisor named Patricia, was reviewing her application for the overnight janitorial position. "You have experience with office cleaning?" Patricia said, not really a question. 5 different companies over the past 10 years. "Yes, ma'am." Brianna kept her hands folded in her lap, maintaining the calm exterior she had perfected over years of job interviews. Inside, she was calculating how many days she had left before her rent was due. 17. She had 17 days to get a paycheck or she would be evicted. Patricia looked up, her expression kind. "I see you attended community college for 2 years. Computer science major?" "Yes, ma'am. I had to stop when—" Brianna paused, choosing her words carefully. "When my financial situation changed." The truth was more complicated than that. Brianna had been 18 years old and halfway through her 2nd year of community college when her parents died in a car accident on Interstate 95. One moment she was a student with dreams of becoming a software engineer. The next moment she was an orphan with no family, no money, and funeral costs she couldn't pay. She had tried to keep going to classes while working full-time at a diner, but the math didn't work. Sleep deprivation made her miss assignments. Work shifts made her miss exams. Eventually, she had to choose between keeping a roof over her head and finishing her education. The choice wasn't really a choice at all. That was 10 years ago. Now she was 28, still cleaning offices, still dreaming about the life she could have had. "Well," Patricia said, closing the folder, "we can definitely use someone with your experience. The overnight shift is 8 p.m. to midnight, Monday through Friday. $15 an hour to start, health insurance after 90 days, and we pay weekly. Does that work for you?" Relief flooded through Brianna so intensely she almost cried. Instead, she smiled and said, "Yes, ma'am. That works perfectly. Thank you so much for this opportunity. You start Monday. I'll pair you with one of our experienced custodians for the first week, just to show you the building layout and our procedures." Brianna left the HR office feeling like she could breathe again. 17 days had just become a non-issue. She had a job with good pay and benefits. It wasn't her dream career, but it was honest work with a respected company. That counted for something. Her first night at Summit Tech, she met Teresa, a cheerful woman in her 50s who had been cleaning the building for 12 years. Teresa showed her the supply closets, the most efficient routes through each floor, and the unspoken rules of being invisible. These tech people, they work all hours, Teresa explained as they restocked paper towels in the 10th floor bathrooms. You'll see folks here at midnight sometimes, especially near deadlines. Just clean around them, don't interrupt. They barely notice we exist, and that's how we like it. Easier to do our jobs when we're not making small talk. Brianna nodded, absorbing every detail. She had learned this lesson at her previous jobs. Custodians inhabited a strange space in office buildings. Essential but overlooked. Necessary but invisible. People would have entire phone conversations in front of her as if she wasn't there, discuss confidential matters while she emptied their trash, leave sensitive documents on their desks while she vacuumed around them. Most custodians tuned it out, listening to music through earbuds or simply letting the words wash over them without meaning. But Brianna couldn't help listening. Her mind latched onto problems the way some people collected stamps. She heard engineers debating solutions and immediately started thinking about alternatives. She saw code on computer screens and her brain automatically began parsing the logic. It was a habit left over from her community college days, when she had loved her computer science classes more than anything. She had been good at it too. Really good. Her professors had told her she had an intuitive understanding of programming that couldn't be taught. She could look at complex code and see the patterns, the logic, the elegant solutions that others missed. But that was a long time ago. Now she pushed a mop cart and tried not to think too much about what might have been. Summit Tech Industries was different from her previous jobs, though. The building felt alive with innovation. Every floor held teams working on projects that seemed straight out of science fiction. Cybersecurity software that could predict attacks before they happened. Encryption methods that would take quantum computers decades to break. User interfaces designed to be accessible to people with disabilities. And at the center of it all was Tyler Harrison. Brianna first saw him on her third night, working late in his office on the 15th floor. She had been vacuuming in the hallway outside when she noticed him through the glass wall. He was younger than she expected for a billionaire CEO, maybe mid-30s, with dark hair that looked like he had been running his hands through it. He wore jeans and a blue sweater, sitting cross-legged on his desk with a laptop balanced on his knees. Classical music played softly from a speaker on his shelf. What struck her was how normal he seemed. No expensive suit. No power poses or aggressive phone calls. He was just a guy working on his computer, occasionally pausing to stare at the ceiling as if the answers to his problems might be written there. Teresa had told her about Tyler during training. He built this company from nothing. Started in a garage 10 years ago with 2 friends and an idea. Now they employ 3,000 people and work with the government. But he's not like those other rich guys. He remembers people's names. Last Christmas, he gave every custodial worker a $500 bonus and a handwritten thank you card. He's good people. Over the following weeks, Brianna developed a routine. She started on the ground floor and worked her way up, saving the 15th floor for last because it was usually empty by the time she got there. But Tyler was often still working, his office light glowing like a beacon. She never spoke to him. He never seemed to notice her. But she noticed him. She noticed the way he treated his employees with respect, the way he held doors open for people, the way he always said thank you to the security guards. She noticed that he kept photos on his desk of elderly people who she guessed might be foster parents, and that his bookshelf held more books on ethics and philosophy than business management. And she noticed the project that was consuming all his attention. It started about 6 weeks into her employment. The 15th floor suddenly got busier. More meetings. More consultants. More people staring at white boards covered in equations that made Brianna's heart race with recognition. They were building something big, something that had to do with quantum encryption and neural networks and authentication protocols. She wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but the glass walls made privacy impossible, and her cleaning duties required her to be in those spaces. She heard Tyler explaining his vision to investors. A software system that would revolutionize how the government protected sensitive data. Something that combined artificial intelligence with unhackable encryption. Something that had never been done before. The project had a deadline. A contract worth $500 million, contingent on delivering working software by October 15th. If they succeeded, Summit Tech would become one of the most important cybersecurity companies in the world. If they failed, Tyler would lose everything he had built. Brianna found herself rooting for them. She would clean the conference rooms after late-night meetings and see the progress on their whiteboards. She recognized the challenges they were facing. The quantum encryption part was solid. The AI integration was brilliant. But there was one section of code that kept causing problems. The authentication protocol wasn't communicating properly with the encryption algorithm. Every time they thought they had fixed it, a new error appeared. She wanted to suggest solutions, but that was absurd. She was a janitor. She had 2 years of community college from a decade ago. These were people with doctorates from Stanford and MIT. What could she possibly offer them? So she stayed quiet and kept cleaning, watching from the margins as Summit Tech poured everything into solving a problem that seemed determined to remain unsolved. By the time 3 months had passed, Brianna knew the Summit Tech building better than her own apartment. She knew which executives kept candy in their desk drawers, which engineers worked best after midnight, which conference rooms had the most comfortable chairs for when she took her lunch break. She knew the rhythm of the building, the pulse of innovation that drove everyone forward. And she knew Tyler Harrison was running out of time. The October 15th deadline was approaching fast. The project was 99% complete. But that final 1%, the stubborn authentication protocol, remained broken despite every attempt to fix it. Brianna watched through windows as consultants came and went. As Tyler's exhaustion grew deeper. As hope began to fade from the faces around her. She wanted to help. But how could she, when nobody would listen to a janitor? She didn't know that her chance was coming. That one desperate night would give her the opportunity to step out of the shadows and into a life she had stopped letting herself dream about. All she knew was that she cared about this place and these people more than she had cared about anything in a long time. And sometimes caring was the first step toward courage. The morning of October 15th arrived with the kind of false cheerfulness that made everything worse. Sunshine streamed through the windows of Summit Tech Industries, illuminating the exhausted faces of people who had been working for 72 hours straight. The building smelled like coffee and desperation. Brianna arrived for her shift at 8 p.m., 12 hours before the contract deadline, and immediately sensed the difference in atmosphere. The usual buzz of productive energy had been replaced by something heavier. Defeat. She could see it in the slumped shoulders of engineers, hear it in the quiet conversations happening in hallways. Teresa pulled her aside in the supply closet. "They're not going to make it," she whispered, even though no one was around to hear. "I heard 2 managers talking. They've had every expert in the country try to fix that code. Nothing works. Tyler's going to have to call the Pentagon tomorrow morning and tell them the deal is off." "That's terrible," Brianna said, and meant it. She had spent 3 months watching this company pour their hearts into this project. Watching Tyler personally review every line of code, meet with every consultant, work longer hours than anyone else. The thought of it all falling apart made her chest ache. "Yeah, well, that's tech for you," Teresa said with a sigh. "Sometimes things just don't work out. Come on, we've got 15 floors to cover and only 4 hours to do it." They split up to work more efficiently. Brianna took floors 8 through 15, her usual territory. She moved through the spaces automatically, emptying trash cans, wiping down desks, vacuuming carpets. But her mind was elsewhere, turning over the problem she had been thinking about for weeks. The authentication protocol. She had seen the code enough times to have memorized the structure. The issue was in how it tried to handshake with the encryption algorithm. Both systems were trying to initiate contact simultaneously, creating a collision that crashed the program. Every solution the consultants had tried focused on making the handshake faster or more efficient. But they were approaching it wrong. You couldn't make the collision faster. You had to eliminate the collision entirely. The authentication needed to complete its process first, then pass the results to encryption with a small time buffer. 3 seconds would be enough. A simple delay loop. That was the answer. Brianna finished floor 14 and headed up to 15. The executive level. Tyler's floor. As the elevator doors opened, she was surprised to see so many people still there. The main conference room was packed. Through the glass walls, she could see at least 30 people crowded around the projection screen where the troublesome code was displayed in large red letters. She recognized some faces. Tyler, of course, standing at the front of the room in a wrinkled blue shirt. His senior engineers clustered near the whiteboard. But there were also people she had never seen before. Expensive-looking consultants in business suits. People with laptops covered in stickers from tech companies and universities. The final wave of experts, brought in for one last desperate attempt. Brianna wheeled her cleaning cart quietly down the hallway, trying not to disturb them. She could hear raised voices even through the glass. "The encryption algorithm is fine," a man in a red tie was saying. "I've checked it 3 times. The problem is definitely in the authentication side." "No, you're wrong." A woman in a maroon blazer pointed at the screen. "The authentication code is textbook perfect. The issue is how they're being linked together." "That's what I said 2 hours ago," Another consultant interjected. But nobody wanted to listen. Tyler held up both hands. Everyone please. Fighting about it doesn't help. We have less than 12 hours. I need solutions, not arguments about whose diagnosis is correct. The room fell silent. Brianna paused in her cleaning, watching through the window. Tyler looked terrible. His eyes were bloodshot. His hair was messy. He had the appearance of a man who had given everything he had and still come up short. I appreciate all of you coming here tonight, Tyler continued, his voice hoarse. You're the best in your fields. If anyone can solve this, it's the people in this room. So please let's try again. Fresh eyes. Fresh perspective. We're so close. Brianna moved to the next office, but she kept glancing back at the conference room. She watched as the consultants bent over their laptops, running tests and simulations. She watched as Tyler paced back and forth, checking his phone every few minutes. She watched as hope flickered and died on face after face. By 10 p.m., half the consultants had left. By 11 p.m., only a handful remained. By midnight, when Brianna's shift officially ended, the conference room held just Tyler and two of his senior engineers. The three men stood in silence, staring at the screen like they could will it to reveal its secrets. Brianna clocked out in the basement as usual. She returned her cleaning supplies to the storage room, hung up her green uniform jacket, grabbed her purse. She should go home. Get some sleep. This wasn't her problem to solve. But instead of heading to the parking lot, she found herself walking back toward the elevator. Riding up to the 15th floor. Standing in the hallway, watching through the glass as Tyler ran both hands through his hair in a gesture of complete frustration. One of the engineers said something. Tyler shook his head. The other engineer put a hand on Tyler's shoulder. The body language told the story. They were giving up. Out of time, out of ideas, out of options. Brianna's heart pounded. She looked down at her hands. They were the hands of someone who cleaned offices. Hands that pushed mops and emptied trash cans and scrubbed toilets. Not the hands of someone who solved problems for billionaire CEOs. But they were also the hands of someone who understood code. Who saw patterns. Who knew the answer to the question that had stumped 5,000 experts. The number haunted her. 5,000 people had tried to solve this problem. Computer scientists with decades of experience. Consultants who charged more per hour than she made in a month. Government cryptographers who had security clearances she couldn't imagine. All of them had failed. What made her think she could succeed where 5,000 others had not? The answer came to her simply, because she had already succeeded. She had solved it weeks ago, sitting in a conference room with a trash bag in her hand while Tyler explained the problem to a consultant. The solution had appeared in her mind complete and clear, like a photograph developing in a darkroom. She hadn't done anything special. She had just listened and understood. Maybe that was the problem. Maybe all those experts had been looking for complex solutions because they couldn't imagine the answer would be simple. Maybe 5,000 brilliant people had been overthinking it while the truth sat right there, obvious and elegant. Or maybe she was wrong. Maybe she was a janitor with delusions of competence, about to embarrass herself in front of people who actually knew what they were doing. Brianna closed her eyes, took a deep breath, opened them again. Through the glass, Tyler was gathering papers, preparing to leave. The engineers had already shut down their laptops. In a few minutes they would walk out of that conference room and go home. Tomorrow they would make the phone call that ended everything they had worked for. Unless someone stopped them. Unless someone had the courage to speak up. Brianna's feet carried her forward before her brain could talk her out of it. She walked down the hallway, her shoes squeaking slightly on the polished floor. The sound made Tyler look up. Their eyes met through the glass. His expression registered confusion, then recognition. She was the janitor. The woman who cleaned his office, who he had probably passed 100 times without really seeing. What was she doing here at 12:30 a.m., staring at him through the window? Brianna reached for the door handle. Her hand was shaking. She could still turn around. She could still retreat to safety and invisibility. Nobody would blame her. Nobody would even know she had been here. But she would know. She would spend the rest of her life knowing she had the answer and stayed silent. That knowledge would eat at her forever. The door handle turned under her palm. The door swung open. 3 faces turned toward her, surprise written clearly on each one. In that moment, Brianna understood that her life was about to change. Either because she was right and would prove it, or because she was wrong and would learn a hard lesson about staying in her lane. There was no going back now. The only way forward was through the truth. "I'm sorry to interrupt," Brianna said, her voice steadier than she felt. "But I think I can help." The conference room fell into the kind of silence that made every small sound enormous. Someone's laptop hummed. The HVAC system clicked on. Brianna's heartbeat thundered in her ears. Tyler Harrison stared at her, his exhausted brain clearly trying to process this unexpected development. He opened his mouth, closed it, then tried again. "I'm sorry, I don't think we've officially met. You're Brianna Jefferson. I work on the custodial team. I know this is strange me being here and I apologize for interrupting. But I've been thinking about your code problem, and I believe I know how to fix it." The two engineers exchanged glances. One of them, a thin man with glasses, let out a sound that was half laugh, half sigh. "Look, miss, we appreciate the thought, but this is a highly technical issue. We've had 5,000 experts examine this code. Literally 5,000. Mathematicians, cryptographers, AI specialists. People with multiple doctorates. No offense, but I'm a janitor," Brianna finished for him. "I know. I understand how this looks. But I'm asking for one chance. 1 minute at that keyboard. If I'm wrong, you've lost nothing except 60 seconds. But if I'm right." She let the sentence hang in the air. Tyler was watching her intently now, his eyes sharp despite the exhaustion. "What makes you think you can solve this?" His tone wasn't mocking. It was genuinely curious. Brianna took a breath, forcing herself to meet his gaze. "I studied computer science at community college. I only completed 2 years, but I was good at it. Really good. And I've been cleaning this building for 3 months. I've heard your meetings, seen your whiteboards, watched this problem evolve. I know the code isn't broken. The encryption algorithm is perfect. The authentication protocol is perfect. They're just trying to communicate at the same time, creating a collision. You need the authentication to finish first, then pass its results to encryption with a 3-second delay buffer. That's the solution everyone's been missing." The silence that followed felt heavier than before. The engineer with glasses looked at Tyler. We considered something similar back in July, but we thought the delay would create security vulnerabilities." "It won't if you use a proper handshake token," Brianna said quietly. "The 3-second delay isn't empty. It's verification time. The authentication generates a token, waits 3 seconds while the system verifies that token is legitimate, then passes it to encryption. Any attempt to intercept during those 3 seconds would invalidate the token. It actually makes the system more secure, not less." Tyler's eyebrows rose. He looked at his engineers, then back at Brianna. That's actually a really elegant solution." He walked closer to her, studying her face like he was seeing her for the first time. "Where did you study computer science?" "Community College of Philadelphia. I had to stop after 2 years when my parents died. Financial reasons. But you kept learning." "I never stopped loving it," Brianna admitted. "Even when I couldn't afford to continue my education." Tyler was quiet for a long moment. Then he made a decision. "Okay. Show me. If you're right, I want to see exactly how you'd implement this solution." The engineer with glasses started to protest. "Tyler, we have procedures. We can't just let unauthorized personnel access." "John." Tyler's voice was firm but not unkind. "We're out of time and out of options. Every so-called authorized expert has failed. I built this company on the principle that good ideas can come from anywhere. That means anywhere. Now please step aside and let her try." John hesitated, then moved away from the computer terminal. Brianna walked toward it, her legs somehow still functioning despite feeling like water. The keyboard glowed under the fluorescent lights. The code filled the screen in intimidating rows of text and symbols. She had cleaned around computers like this 100 times. She had never imagined actually using one in a situation like this. "You said you can do this in 1 second?" the other engineer asked. His name tag read Philip, and he sounded more interested than skeptical. "The core fix, yes. Adding the delay buffer is a single line of code in the right place. I'd need more time to test it properly, but the implementation itself is fast." "Then show us," Tyler said. He stood next to her now, close enough that she could smell his cologne, faint under the scent of coffee and exhaustion. "Please." Brianna sat down at the keyboard. Her hands hovered over the keys, trembling slightly. This was it. The moment that would prove she was either right or delusional. She scanned the code on the screen, finding her place. The authentication protocol was on the left side. The encryption algorithm on the right. The error logs at the bottom showed collision after collision. She could see the exact problem. Both systems were initializing at the same moment, reaching for each other simultaneously. Like two people trying to go through a door at the same time, they kept crashing into each other. The fix required one line. One single line of code inserted in exactly the right spot. Brianna placed her fingers on the keyboard. She found the correct position in the authentication protocol, right after the verification function. Then she typed, sleep 3000, / delay buffer for handshake token. One line. 1 second to type it. She hit enter and sat back. Nothing happened for a moment. Then the screen flickered. The code recompiled automatically. The error logs at the bottom of the screen cleared. New text began to appear. Authentication protocol, running token generation, complete verification buffer, active handshake, successful encryption algorithm, initialized integration status, complete. The word that appeared at the very bottom of the screen in bright green letters made Brianna's eyes fill with tears. Success. The conference room erupted. Philip shouted something incomprehensible. John grabbed Tyler's shoulder, shaking him while laughing. Tyler himself stood frozen, staring at the screen like he couldn't believe what he was seeing. Run it again, Tyler said suddenly. Run the full simulation. I need to be sure. John practically dove for the keyboard, his skepticism completely gone. He opened the testing software and initiated a complete system simulation. The group watched in silence as the program ran through every possible scenario. Authentication checks, encryption protocols, integration testing, stress tests that threw thousands of simultaneous requests at the system. Every single test came back green. Perfect functionality. No errors. No collisions. The software that had been broken for months was now working flawlessly. The contract, Philip breathed. Tyler, we made the contract. Tyler wasn't looking at the screen anymore. He was looking at Brianna, who had stood up from the computer and was now standing awkwardly by the table, not sure what to do with her hands. You just saved this company, Tyler said, his voice rough with emotion. Do you understand that? 5,000 experts. Months of work. Millions of dollars spent on consultants. And you walked in here at 12:30 in the morning and solved it in 1 second. It was the right answer, Brianna said simply. Sometimes the right answer is simple. Everyone was looking for something complicated, so they missed what was right in front of them. Tyler laughed, the sound startled out of him. Simple. This has been destroying me for 4 months and you call it simple. He ran his hands through his hair again, but this time the gesture was relief instead of frustration. What's your full name? Brianna Jefferson. Brianna Jefferson. He repeated it like he was memorizing it. How long have you been working here? 3 months in custodial. And before that? Different custodial jobs. I've been cleaning offices for 10 years. Tyler shook his head slowly. No, that's wrong. That's completely wrong. Someone with your brain shouldn't be cleaning offices. You should be building things, creating things, solving problems exactly like you just did. He turned to his engineers. John, Philip, can you two handle the contract submission tomorrow morning? I need the rest of tonight free. Of course, John said. He was looking at Brianna with newfound respect. We owe you everything, Ms. Jefferson. Thank you doesn't even begin to cover it. Thank you, Brianna said, overwhelmed. For giving me the chance. For listening. That chance just changed all our lives, Philip added. Including yours, I suspect. Tyler picked up his phone and made a call, even though it was past 1 a.m. Patricia? I'm sorry to wake you. I need you to come to the office tomorrow morning. 9 a.m. I'm hiring someone new, and we need to process everything immediately. Position, benefits, salary, the works. Yes, tomorrow. This can't wait. He hung up and turned to Brianna. I hope you don't have plans for the rest of tonight because we need to talk. And I mean really talk. About you, about this company, about what happens next. Is that okay? Brianna nodded, not trusting her voice. Tyler smiled for the first time since she'd met him. A real smile that transformed his exhausted face into something warm and genuine. Good, he said. Let's go to my office. We have a lot to discuss. Tyler's office was bigger than Brianna's entire apartment. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city, now dark except for scattered lights in other buildings where people worked through the night. His desk was organized chaos. Computer monitors, notebooks, a coffee mug with a math joke printed on it, and those framed photos she had noticed before. An older couple, smiling in what looked like someone's backyard. Foster parents, Tyler said, following her gaze. Harold and Susan. They took me in when I was 14. Best thing that ever happened to me. He gestured to one of the comfortable chairs facing his desk. Please sit. Brianna sat, feeling strange to be on this side of the office. Usually she was emptying Tyler's trash can and vacuuming around his desk. Now she was sitting across from him like an equal. The shift in perspective made her dizzy. Tyler collapsed into his own chair with a long exhale. I'm going to be honest with you, Brianna. I'm running on about 6 hours of sleep total from the last 3 days, and my brain isn't functioning at full capacity. But I need to say some things to you, and I need to say them now because if I wait until tomorrow I'll regret it. He leaned forward, his elbows on his desk. First question. Did you really solve that problem weeks ago? Yes. About 6 weeks ago. I heard you explaining it to a consultant, and I understood what was wrong. And you didn't say anything. Brianna met his eyes. I'm a janitor. I didn't think anyone would listen to me. I thought I'd be seen as overstepping or worse, mocked for thinking I could solve something that people with doctorates couldn't. Tyler was quiet for a moment. That's on me. On us. We created an environment where you felt you couldn't speak up. That's a failure of leadership. I tell everyone that good ideas can come from anywhere, but I didn't make a culture where you believed that applied to you. He shook his head. I'm sorry. That should have never happened. You didn't know, Brianna said. You can't apologize for something you didn't know about. Yes, I can. And I am. But now I know. And now we're going to fix it. Tyler pulled a notepad toward him and clicked a pen. Tell me about yourself. Everything. I want to understand who you are and how you got here. So Brianna told him. She told him about her parents who had worked hard to give her opportunities they never had. About how she excelled in high school, especially in math and science. About getting accepted to community college for computer science on a partial scholarship. About being happy for the first time, feeling like she was exactly where she was supposed to be. She told him about the phone call that changed everything. The police officer's voice telling her there had been an accident. The funeral she couldn't afford. The apartment she had to leave because it was her parents' lease. The sudden reality of being 18, alone, and broke. I tried to keep going to school, she said. I got a job at a diner, worked 40 hours a week, went to classes whenever I could. But I was so tired all the time. I missed too many assignments. Failed 2 classes. Realized I couldn't do both. So I left school and just worked. That must have been incredibly hard, Tyler said quietly. It was what I had to do. You make choices based on what you need to survive. Survival meant keeping a job and a place to live. School was something I couldn't afford anymore in any sense of the word. But you never stopped learning. Brianna smiled slightly. No. I got books from the library. Watched programming tutorials online when I could. I worked at different places over the years, always custodial because the hours were flexible and I didn't need a college degree. And I listened. People don't notice janitors, so they talk freely. I heard so many conversations about code and systems and problems. I couldn't help trying to solve them in my head. Tyler wrote something on his notepad. What would you do if money wasn't a factor? If you could go back to school, finish your degree, what would you want to do with it? I'd want to build things that help people, Brianna said without hesitation. Software that makes life easier for folks who aren't tech-savvy. Systems that are accessible to people with disabilities. I've always thought technology should serve everyone, not just people who can afford expensive devices or who already understand complicated interfaces. That's exactly the kind of thinking we need here. Tyler set down his pen and looked at her directly. Brianna, I'm going to make you an offer. I want you to work for Summit Tech as a junior software analyst. Full-time position. $65,000 a year to start with full health benefits, dental, vision, and a 401k with company matching. That's the formal offer. Brianna's breath caught. $65,000. She currently made $31,000 a year cleaning offices. That offer was more than double her current salary. But that's not all, Tyler continued. I also want to pay for you to finish your computer science degree. Online night classes, however works best for you. Summit Tech will cover tuition, books, everything. And your work schedule will be flexible enough to accommodate your class schedule. No one should have to choose between education and survival the way you did. Tears began streaming down Brianna's face before she could stop them. She pressed her hands to her cheeks, embarrassed, but unable to hold back the emotion. 10 years. 10 years of cleaning offices and dreaming about a life that seemed impossible. And now this man, this person she had watched from the shadows for 3 months, was offering her everything she had stopped letting herself hope for. Why? She whispered. Why are you doing this? Because you earned it. Because you have a gift that shouldn't be wasted. Because I believe in giving people opportunities, especially people who've had to fight for everything they have. Tyler's voice was gentle. And honestly, because I see myself in you. I was a foster kid who grew up poor. The only reason I succeeded was because people took chances on me. Gave me opportunities one didn't have the resume for. I built this company on that principle. That potential matters more than credentials. Brianna wiped her eyes, trying to compose herself. I don't know what to say. Say yes. Accept the offer. Let me help you build the life you deserve. Yes. The word came out choked but clear. Yes, I accept. Thank you. Thank you so much. Tyler smiled, and Brianna realized it was the first time she had seen him look genuinely happy. Patricia from HR will process everything tomorrow morning. You'll need to come in at 9 to sign paperwork and get set up with your new workspace. Bring your custodial uniform to return it. You won't be needing it anymore. My workspace. Office. Computer. Everything you need. You're a software analyst now, Brianna. This is real. Brianna started crying again, and this time she didn't try to hide it. She cried for the girl who dropped out of school at 18. She cried for the 10 years of struggle and survival. She cried for her parents who would have been so proud of this moment. And she cried because sometimes kindness came from unexpected places, and sometimes hope wasn't foolish at all. Tyler stood and walked around his desk. For a moment, Brianna thought he might try to hug her, but instead he held out his hand for a proper handshake. She stood and took it, feeling the firmness of his grip, the sincerity in his eyes. Welcome to the team, he said. I have a feeling you're going to change everything around here. Are you inspired by stories where kindness creates opportunity? If you believe in the power of hope and second chances, subscribe to this channel and share your thoughts in the comments. Your support helps me bring more uplifting stories to people who need to hear them. Let me know what you think happens next for Brianna. Brianna left Summit Tech Industries at 3 a.m., walking to her car in the parking garage like she was floating. The world looked different somehow. The same streets, the same buildings, but everything felt new. Possible. She drove home to her tiny apartment, crawled into bed fully clothed, and lay there staring at the ceiling. Sleep was impossible. Her mind kept replaying the conversation. The moment the code worked. Tyler's offer. The salary that would change her life. $65,000 a year. Full benefits. Tuition covered. A real career doing work she loved. Tomorrow morning she would walk into Summit Tech as an employee, not a janitor. She would have her own office. Her own computer. Her own projects. Tomorrow morning everything changed. Brianna closed her eyes and let herself feel something she hadn't felt in a decade. Genuine, unguarded hope. The kind of hope that believed good things could happen. That hard work mattered. That kindness existed in the world even when you stopped looking for it. She thought about Tyler working alone in his office at midnight, refusing to give up. She thought about how he had listened to her when he could have dismissed her. How he had given her a chance when 5,000 experts had failed. How he had looked at her and seen potential instead of a uniform. That kind of person was rare. That kind of person was worth working for, worth learning from, worth believing in. Brianna smiled in the darkness of her bedroom. Tomorrow her new life began. And for the first time in 10 years she couldn't wait to see what came next. The next morning Brianna stood outside Summit Tech Industries at 8:45 a.m., wearing the nicest outfit she owned. A maroon blouse and black slacks she had bought 3 years ago for a cousin's wedding. She carried a plastic bag containing her green custodial uniform and name badge. Her hands were shaking as she pushed through the glass doors. The building looked different in daylight. Brighter. More welcoming. The security guard at the desk, Thomas, looked up and did a double take. Brianna? You're here early. Shift doesn't start until 8 tonight. I'm not here for my shift. I'm here for... She paused, the words still feeling surreal. I'm starting a new position. Software analyst. Thomas's eyes widened. Wait, what? Really? Really? I'm meeting with HR at 9 to sign paperwork. Well, congratulations. Thomas grinned. Though I gotta say you were the best part of the custodial team. Always said thank you, always remembered my name. We'll miss seeing you on the night shift. Thank you, Thomas. That means a lot. Brianna rode the elevator to the 3rd floor where HR was located, her heart pounding the entire way. Patricia was already at her desk, despite it being only 8:50 a.m. The older woman stood up when she saw Brianna approach. Ms. Jefferson. Tyler called me last night at an ungodly hour, very excited about bringing you on board. Come in, let's get you processed. The next 2 hours were a blur of paperwork. Tax forms. Benefits enrollment. Direct deposit authorization. Patricia explained everything patiently, walking Brianna through each document. You're starting at $65,000 annually, Patricia said, pointing to a line on the offer letter. with a review at 6 months for potential increase based on performance. Full health insurance starting immediately, which is unusual, but Tyler insisted. Dental and vision too. And I see here that the company will be covering your educational expenses. Yes. I'm going back to school to finish my computer science degree. Patricia smiled warmly. That's wonderful. We have a few other employees doing the same thing. I'll connect you with them. It helps to have people who understand the juggling act of work and classes. She slid a stack of forms across the desk. Sign here, here, and here. Initial at the bottom of each page. Brianna signed, each signature feeling like a small miracle. This was really happening. It wasn't a dream or a fantasy. It was real, documented proof that her life had changed. One more thing, Patricia said. She pulled out a key card on a lanyard. This is your building access badge. It will get you into the main doors and the 15th floor where your office is located. Speaking of which, let me take you up there and get you situated. The 15th floor. The executive level. The place Brianna had cleaned for 3 months, always feeling like a visitor in someone else's world. Now it was her world too. Patricia led her out of HR and back to the elevators. They rode up in comfortable silence. When the doors opened on 15, Brianna was struck again by how much glass there was. Everything was transparent, open, designed to encourage collaboration. It felt both intimidating and exciting. Your office is right this way, Patricia said, leading her down a hallway Brianna had vacuumed many times. They stopped at a door with a placard that read, Software Development Team. Inside was a medium-sized office with a window, a desk, a comfortable chair, and 2 large computer monitors. This is yours, Patricia said. The IT team already set up your computer with all the software you'll need. Your login credentials are in this envelope. Tyler will be by around 11 to check on you and explain your first projects. Any questions? Brianna looked around the space, trying to absorb it all. The window showed a view of downtown. The desk was clean and organized. The monitors gleamed under LED lighting. It's perfect. Thank you. My pleasure. Welcome to Summit Tech, Brianna. We're glad to have you here. After Patricia left, Brianna stood in the center of her new office, slowly turning in a circle. This was hers. This space, this opportunity, this chance at a different life. She sat down in the chair, which was far more comfortable than any chair in her apartment. She touched the keyboard, the mouse, the edge of the desk. Real. All of it real. A knock on the door frame made her look up. A young woman stood there, probably mid-20s, with bright red glasses and a friendly smile. She wore a blue sweater and carried a coffee mug that said, I speak fluent sarcasm. Hi. I'm Beth. I work 2 offices down. I heard we got a new team member. She came in and extended her hand. Welcome aboard. Brianna. Thank you. They shook hands. This is all very new to me. First job in tech? First job that isn't custodial work. Beth's eyebrows rose, but her expression stayed friendly. Seriously? How did you end up here then? Brianna told an abbreviated version of last night's story. Beth listened with growing amazement, her coffee mug forgotten in her hand. Wait, you're the one who solved the authentication problem? Oh my gosh, that's been the talk of the whole building this morning. Everyone's trying to figure out who this mystery genius is that Tyler brought on board. Beth laughed. I can't wait to tell people it was you. They're going to lose their minds. Is that good or bad? Good. Definitely good. This company values talent no matter where it comes from. And you just saved us from total disaster. You're going to be a legend. Over the next few hours, more people stopped by to introduce themselves. Engineers who wanted to shake her hand. Project managers who welcomed her to the team. Even some people from the custodial staff, who had heard she had been promoted and wanted to congratulate her. Teresa came by around 10:30, her eyes shining with pride. Look at you. In an office with a window and everything. I knew you were smart, but I didn't know you were genius level. I'm not a genius, Brianna said. I just saw something everyone else missed. That's exactly what a genius would say. Teresa pulled her into a hug. I'm so proud of you, honey. You deserve this. At 11 a.m. sharp, Tyler knocked on her door frame. He looked completely different from last night. Clean-shaven, wearing a crisp blue button-down and dark jeans, his hair neatly combed. He had clearly gone home and slept for a few hours. Morning, he said, smiling. How are you settling in? Good. A little overwhelmed, but good. That's normal. Starting a new job is always intense, especially when that job is in a completely different field than what you're used to. He came in and sat in the chair across from her desk. I wanted to check in and explain what your role will look like for the first few months. We're not going to throw you into the deep end immediately. You'll start by shadowing some of our senior developers, learning our systems and processes. Then we'll gradually give you more responsibility as you get comfortable. That sounds reasonable. We're also going to pair you with a mentor. Someone who can answer questions and help you navigate the company culture. I was thinking, Beth, if that works for you. She's brilliant, patient, and knows this place inside out. Beth already introduced herself. She seems great. Perfect. Tyler leaned back in his chair. I also wanted to talk about your education. Have you thought about when you want to start classes? I was thinking maybe next semester? Give myself time to adjust to the new job first. That's smart. But I want you to know we're flexible. If you want to start sooner, we'll make it work. If you need to adjust your hours for classes, we'll make it work. Your education is important, and I don't want you feeling like you have to choose between work and school ever again. Brianna felt her throat tighten with emotion. Thank you. That means everything to me. You earned it. All of it. Tyler stood up. I'll let you get settled. If you need anything, my office is right down the hall. And Brianna? I'm really glad you're here. After he left, Brianna sat at her desk and looked around her office again. The window with its view of the city. The dual monitors waiting for her to use them. The door she could close if she needed privacy. The nameplate that would soon read Brianna Jefferson, software analyst. She thought about how she had stood outside this building last night, afraid to walk through the door. How she had almost convinced herself to stay silent, to remain invisible. How one moment of courage had changed everything. Her phone buzzed with a text from a number she didn't recognize. Then she realized it was Tyler's number, which had been included in her new employee packet. Lunch with the development team at 12:30 in the main conference room. Come hungry and ready to meet everyone officially. Brianna smiled and typed back, I'll be there. The rest of the day passed in a wonderful blur. Lunch with the team, where she met a dozen new people who all treated her with genuine warmth and respect. An afternoon training session with Beth, learning the company's project management software. A tour of the building that showed her all the resources available. A cafeteria with subsidized meals, a gym on the second floor, a quiet room for when people needed to decompress. By the time 5 p.m. rolled around, Brianna was exhausted but happy. She gathered her things, still carrying the plastic bag with her old uniform that she would drop off at HR tomorrow. As she walked to the elevator, she passed Tyler's office. He was on the phone but saw her and waved. She waved back, smiling. In the parking garage, she sat in her car for a moment before starting the engine. Yesterday at this time, she had been preparing for another night of cleaning offices. Today she was leaving her first day as a software analyst at a cutting-edge tech company. The drive home felt different too. She wasn't exhausted from physical labor. She was tired from mental work, from learning new things, from stretching her brain in ways it hadn't been challenged in years. It was the good kind of tired. The kind that came from growth. Back in her apartment, Brianna changed into comfortable clothes and made herself dinner. As she ate, she opened her laptop and started researching online computer science programs. She found several good options, including one that would let her transfer her community college credits and finish her bachelor's degree in about 2 years of part-time study. 2 years. It seemed like a long time and no time at all. 2 years ago, she had been cleaning offices at a different company, thinking her life would never change. Now she was planning to finish her degree while working her dream job. Brianna closed her laptop and let herself just sit with the feeling of possibility. She thought about her parents, wished they could see this. They had always believed in her, always encouraged her love of learning. They would have been so happy. I did it, she whispered to the empty apartment. I finally did it. And somewhere in the universe she liked to think they were proud. 6 months passed in a beautiful rush of learning and growth. Brianna threw herself into her work with the focus of someone who had been given a second chance and refused to waste it. She arrived early, stayed late, asked questions, absorbed information like a sponge. Within 3 months, she had moved from shadowing senior developers to working on her own projects. Within 4 months, Tyler was assigning her to critical tasks that he trusted her to handle independently. She had also enrolled in the online computer science program, taking 2 classes per semester. The work was challenging but manageable, especially with Summit Tech's flexible schedule. Her coworkers had become friends, always willing to help when she struggled with a concept or needed advice on a project. Beth had become her closest friend at the company, the two of them eating lunch together most days and texting about everything from code problems to reality TV shows. And Tyler had become something more complicated than just a boss. It started innocently enough. He checked on her progress regularly, which was normal for a CEO who cared about his employees. But over time, their conversations shifted from purely professional to personal. She learned about his childhood in foster care, bouncing between homes until Harold and Susan took him in at 14. He learned about her parents, her struggles, her dreams beyond just finishing her degree. They discovered shared interests. Both loved classical music. Both read science fiction novels. Both believed strongly in using technology to make the world better. Their conversations during meetings would sometimes veer off topic, discussing philosophy or ethics or whether artificial intelligence would ever develop consciousness. Brianna noticed small things. The way Tyler smiled when she walked into a meeting. How he always seemed to position himself near her during team gatherings. The way his eyes would seek hers across a crowded room, like he was checking to make sure she was okay. She told herself it didn't mean anything. He was just a supportive boss. But her heart knew better. It was a Tuesday evening in April when everything shifted. Brianna had been working late on a new security protocol, losing track of time as she often did when deep in code. She finally looked up from her computer to find the office dark except for her desk lamp and one other light down the hall. Tyler's office. Brianna saved her work and stood up, stretching muscles that had been still too long. She should go home. It was past 8 and she had an online class meeting at 9. But curiosity pulled her toward Tyler's office. He was bent over his desk, studying something on his computer with intense concentration. He wore a green sweater that brought out flecks of color in his eyes, and his hair had that messy quality that came from running his hands through it too many times. Brianna knocked lightly on the door frame. Tyler looked up, his expression shifting from concentration to pleasure. Brianna, I didn't know you were still here. Could say the same about you. What are you working on? New initiative. I'm trying to design a program that would provide free tech training to underserved communities. The logistics are more complicated than I expected. Brianna came into the office drawn by the topic. Tell me about it. Tyler explained his vision, a foundation that would partner with community centers in low-income neighborhoods, providing computers, internet access, and trained instructors to teach coding and other tech skills. It would be completely free for participants, funded by Summit Tech and other corporate sponsors. It's personal, Tyler said. I grew up poor. I know what it's like to be smart but have no resources. This program could change lives the way mine was changed. It's a beautiful idea, Brianna said. She moved closer to look at his computer screen, where he had sketched out a rough plan. But you're right, the logistics are tricky. You need to consider transportation for participants, childcare options, flexible scheduling to accommodate people with jobs. Have you thought about partnering with existing vocational programs? That's brilliant. Tyler pulled up a new document and started typing notes. What else am I missing? They spent the next hour brainstorming together, Brianna pulling up a chair next to Tyler's desk. She pointed out potential challenges and suggested solutions. He built on her ideas, adding details and refinements. Their conversation flowed easily, punctuated by laughter and moments of excited realization when a particularly good idea emerged. At one point, Brianna reached across to point at something on Tyler's computer screen. Her hand brushed his on the keyboard. The contact lasted maybe 2 seconds, but time seemed to slow down. Both of them froze. The air in the office felt suddenly charged with something neither of them could name. Tyler pulled his hand back slowly. Sorry. No, I'm sorry. I wasn't paying attention to where I was reaching. They sat in awkward silence for a moment. Then Tyler cleared his throat. It's late. You should probably head home. Yeah. Online class in 20 minutes. Brianna stood up, suddenly desperate to escape the strange tension that had filled the room. But this foundation idea is really good. You should pursue it. Maybe you could help me develop it further. I mean, if you're interested. You clearly have good insights. I'd like that. They said goodnight, professional and polite. But as Brianna walked to her car, her hand still tingled where it had touched his. She could still feel the electricity of that moment, brief as it was. During her online class, she found it hard to concentrate. Her professor was explaining something about network architecture, but Brianna's mind kept returning to Tyler's office. The way he had looked at her. The warmth in his smile. The connection that seemed to exist between them, unspoken but increasingly obvious. She had a crush on her boss. That was unprofessional and probably a bad idea. Tyler was a billionaire CEO. She was an employee who used to clean his office. The power dynamic was all wrong. She needed to push these feelings aside and focus on her career. But telling herself that didn't make her heart stop racing when she thought about him. The next few weeks were strange. Brianna found herself hyper-aware of Tyler's presence. When he walked into a meeting, her whole body seemed to notice. When he spoke, she caught herself watching his face, the expressions that crossed it. When their eyes met across a conference table, she felt heat rise in her cheeks. She thought she was being subtle, but Beth noticed. "So," Beth said one day at lunch, her tone casual but her eyes knowing. "You and Tyler seem to be working together a lot lately. We're collaborating on the foundation project. That's all." "Aha. And the way you look at him when you think no one's watching, that's also about the foundation." Brianna put down her sandwich. "Is it that obvious?" "To me, yes. To him, I'm not sure. Tyler's brilliant with code but sometimes clueless about people." Beth leaned forward. "Can I give you some advice? Be careful. Office romances are complicated. And when one person is the boss, it gets even more complicated." "Nothing's happening," Brianna said firmly. "Nothing's going to happen. I'm not going to risk this job for a crush." "Good. I'm glad you're being smart about it." Beth paused. "But for what it's worth? I've worked here for 4 years. I've never seen Tyler look at anyone the way he looks at you." That observation stayed with Brianna, both thrilling and terrifying. She tried to maintain professional distance, but it was hard when they kept being thrown together by work. The foundation project was growing more serious. Tyler had gotten board approval to move forward, and he wanted Brianna as his co-lead on development. It meant more meetings, more time together, more opportunities for those moments of connection that left her breathless. One evening in May, they were working late again, reviewing partnership proposals from community centers. The office was empty except for them. Spring rain pattered against the windows, creating a cocoon of sound around them. "This one from the Chicago Center looks promising," Brianna said, pointing to a document on Tyler's screen. She had pulled her chair close to his again, close enough that she could smell his cologne. "I agree. They have strong community ties and existing relationships with local schools." Tyler made a note. Then he turned his head to look at her. "Can I ask you something personal?" Brianna's heart jumped. "Sure. Are you happy here? At Summit Tech? Is this what you hoped it would be?" "More than I hoped. This job has changed my life in every possible way." "Good. I'm glad." Tyler held her gaze. "You've changed this company too, you know. Made it better. Made me think differently about how we identify and develop talent. I just got lucky." "No. Luck is winning the lottery. What you did took courage and skill. You took a risk and it paid off. That's not luck. That's character." They were very close now. Brianna could see gold flecks in Tyler's eyes that she had never noticed before. She could count his eyelashes if she wanted to. The moment stretched between them, full of possibility and danger. Tyler's phone rang, shattering the tension. He blinked and pulled back, checking the screen. "Sorry, I need to take this. Board member." "Of course. I should get going anyway." Brianna gathered her things quickly, her hands shaking. She said goodnight and fled to her car, where she sat gripping the steering wheel and trying to calm her racing heart. This was getting dangerous. The feelings weren't fading. They were growing stronger, more intense, harder to ignore. And if she wasn't mistaken, Tyler felt something too. She had seen it in his eyes, in the way he leaned toward her, in the careful distance he maintained, like he didn't trust himself to get too close. Something was building between them. Something neither of them had planned or expected. And Brianna had no idea what to do about it. She drove home through the rain, her mind spinning with thoughts of Tyler and touch and possibility. She needed to be smart. She needed to be careful. She needed to protect the career she had worked so hard to build. But her heart wasn't listening to any of that. Her heart wanted what it wanted, logic be damned. The moment came 2 weeks later, on a Thursday afternoon that started like any other. Brianna was in her office reviewing code when her phone pinged with a text from Tyler. "Are you free for dinner tomorrow night? I'd like to talk to you about something. Not work-related. Personal." Brianna stared at the message for a full minute, her heart hammering. This was different from their usual late-night work sessions. He was explicitly saying it wasn't about business. He was asking her to dinner. She typed back, "Yes, I'm free. What time?" 7 p.m. "I'll pick you up. Send me your address." This was happening. Whatever this was, it was happening. Brianna sent her address with shaking hands, then immediately called Beth. "He asked me to dinner. A personal dinner. What do I do?" Beth's laugh came through the phone. "You go to dinner. You listen to what he has to say. And you're honest about your feelings. What if I'm reading this wrong? What if it's not what I think? Then you'll have a nice dinner with your boss." "But Bri, I don't think you're reading it wrong." Brianna spent Friday in a state of nervous energy. She could barely focus on work. Every time she passed Tyler in the hallway, her stomach flipped. He looked nervous too, she noticed. He kept checking his watch and running his hand through his hair. At 5, Brianna left work early, citing a doctor's appointment. She went home and spent 2 hours getting ready, trying on every outfit she owned before settling on a simple green dress that brought out the warmth in her dark skin. She did her makeup carefully, spent extra time on her hair, checked her reflection a dozen times. At exactly 7 p.m., her doorbell rang. Brianna took a deep breath, smoothed down her dress and opened the door. Tyler stood there in dark jeans and a blue button-down, holding a small bouquet of flowers. Not roses, she noticed. Something more thoughtful, a mix of wildflowers and bright colors. "Hi," he said, looking slightly stunned. "You look beautiful." "Thank you. These are lovely." She took the flowers, her hands brushing his. Even that small contact sent electricity through her. "I wasn't sure what kind you liked, so I asked the florist for something cheerful." "They're perfect. Come in for a second while I put these in water." Tyler stepped into her small apartment, looking around with genuine interest. It was humble compared to what he was probably used to. 1 bedroom, tiny kitchen, furniture from second-hand stores. But Brianna had made it cozy with throw pillows and plants and string lights. "I like your place," Tyler said. "It feels like you." "It's not much, but it's home." Brianna filled a vase with water and arranged the flowers. "Where are we going for dinner?" "A quiet Italian place downtown. Best pasta in the city, and they have private booths." "I thought we might want privacy for this conversation." The seriousness in his voice made Brianna's nerves spike higher. She grabbed her purse and they headed out to his car. The drive downtown was filled with nervous small talk about work and the weather. Tyler seemed as anxious as she felt. The restaurant was elegant but not pretentious, with dim lighting and soft music. The hostess led them to a private booth in the back corner, away from other diners. Tyler ordered wine for them both, then sat back and looked at Brianna with an expression she couldn't quite read. "I need to be honest with you," he said without preamble. "I've been trying to figure out how to have this conversation for weeks, and I finally realized there's no perfect way to say it. So I'm just going to be direct." Brianna's heart pounded. "Okay. I have feelings for you. Romantic feelings. More than feelings, if I'm being completely honest. I think about you constantly. When you walk into a room, my whole day gets better. When we work together, I'm happy in a way I haven't been happy in years. You're brilliant and kind and beautiful, and I'm falling for you. Hard." The words hung in the air between them. Brianna felt tears spring to her eyes, overwhelmed by the honesty and vulnerability in Tyler's confession. "But," Tyler continued, his expression serious, "I'm also your boss. And that creates a massive complication. There's a power imbalance between us that makes this inappropriate. You might feel pressured to reciprocate because I'm the CEO. You might worry that saying no would affect your job. And I need you to know, absolutely clearly, that your position at Summit Tech is secure no matter how you respond to what I'm saying. If you don't feel the same way, nothing changes professionally. Your job is safe. Your career is safe. You can say no without any consequences whatsoever." He took a breath, then continued. "I've been thinking about this nonstop. I consulted with HR, with lawyers, even with Harold and Susan because I needed to make sure I was doing this right. And the conclusion is that if we're both interested, if we both want to pursue this, we can. But it has to be completely your choice, made freely without any pressure. So I'm asking, do you have feelings for me?" Brianna wiped tears from her cheeks. "Yes. I've been trying so hard not to, because I didn't want to be unprofessional or make things weird. But yes, I have feelings for you. Strong feelings. The kind that keep me up at night." Relief washed over Tyler's face. "Really? Really? You're incredible, Tyler. You gave me my life back. You believed in me when no one else would. You're kind and fair and brilliant, and I think I started falling for you the first time you looked at me like I was someone worth listening to. You are worth listening to. You're worth everything." Tyler reached across the table and took her hand. His touch was warm, solid, real. "I want to do this right. I don't want you to feel pressured or uncomfortable. We'll go slow. We'll keep it private at first. If at any point you change your mind, we stop, no questions asked." "I won't change my mind," Brianna said, squeezing his hand. "I've been fighting this for months. I'm tired of fighting it." Tyler smiled, the genuine smile that transformed his whole face. "So we're doing this? We're giving this a shot." "Yes, we're doing this." Their food arrived, but neither of them seemed very interested in eating. They talked instead, hands still linked across the table. Tyler told her about his past relationships, none of which had worked out because he always put work first. Brianna told him about how she had stopped dating years ago, too focused on survival to make space for romance. "I never let myself hope for something like this," Brianna admitted. "I thought love was something other people got to have. People with normal lives and stable careers. You have a stable career now. A brilliant career. And you deserve love just as much as anyone else." Tyler lifted her hand and kissed her knuckles gently. "I'm going to do my best to prove that to you." They stayed at the restaurant until closing, talking about everything and nothing. Making plans for how they would navigate this new dimension of their relationship. Agreeing to keep it private for now until they were sure it was serious. Promising to communicate honestly if problems arose. When Tyler drove Brianna home, he walked her to her door like a gentleman. "Can I see you this weekend?" he asked. "Maybe do something fun, not work-related?" "I'd like that." "Good. I'll text you tomorrow with ideas." He hesitated, then leaned in slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wanted. She didn't want to. Their first kiss was soft and sweet, tentative and perfect. When they pulled apart, both were smiling. "Good night, Brianna." "Good night, Tyler." Brianna went inside and closed the door, leaning against it with a huge smile on her face. This was real. She was dating Tyler Harrison. The man who had changed her life. The man she had fallen for without meaning to. The future suddenly felt full of possibility. Not just career possibility but personal possibility. The kind that involved holding hands and stolen kisses and maybe, eventually, love that lasted. Brianna pulled out her phone and texted Beth. "He has feelings for me. I have feelings for him. We're giving this a shot." Beth's response came immediately. "Finally. I've been watching you two dance around this for months. I'm so happy for you. Details tomorrow at lunch." Brianna laughed and set down her phone. She changed into pajamas and got ready for bed, but she knew she wouldn't sleep much. Her mind was too full, her heart too happy. Everything in her life was falling into place in ways she never could have imagined a year ago. She thought about standing outside Summit Tech that night 7 months ago, afraid to walk through the door. If someone had told her then that she would end up here in this moment, she never would have believed it. But life had a way of surprising you. Sometimes courage led to opportunity. Sometimes kindness led to connection. And sometimes taking a risk opened doors you didn't even know existed. Brianna fell asleep with a smile on her face and Tyler's goodnight text on her phone, already looking forward to whatever came next. The next 3 months were the happiest of Brianna's life. She and Tyler dated quietly, keeping their relationship private from most of the company. They went to movies and museums. They cooked dinner at her apartment and his house. They talked for hours about everything from philosophy to their favorite childhood memories. The relationship felt natural in a way Brianna had never experienced before. There was no pretending, no trying to be someone she wasn't. Tyler accepted her completely, supported her education, celebrated her victories at work. And she did the same for him, listening when he was stressed, offering perspective when he needed it, reminding him to take care of himself when he got too focused on the company. Beth and a few close friends knew about the relationship, but they kept it from the wider company. It wasn't about hiding, Tyler explained. It was about protecting what they had while it was still new. Letting it grow strong before exposing it to outside opinions and judgment. Work continued to go well. Brianna completed 2 more semesters of online classes, bringing her closer to finishing her degree. She took on bigger projects at Summit Tech, earning respect from her colleagues and proving that Tyler's faith in her had been justified. The foundation initiative that she and Tyler had developed together was moving forward, with plans to launch the first community center partnership in the fall. One Saturday morning in July, Tyler took Brianna to breakfast at a small cafe near the park. They sat outside in the sunshine, drinking coffee and eating pastries while people walked dogs and children played nearby. "I've been thinking," Tyler said, setting down his cup, "about the foundation. About what we're trying to accomplish." "What about it?" "I want you to be the co-founder with me. Not just a consultant or advisor. An actual co-founder. Your name on the paperwork, your voice in every decision. This was as much your vision as mine, and you should get equal credit." Brianna felt tears prick her eyes. "Tyler, that's incredible. Are you sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything. You understand what we're trying to do on a personal level. You lived the reality of being brilliant but lacking resources. Your perspective is essential." He reached across the table and took her hand. "Plus, I like the idea of building something with you. Not just our relationship but something that will outlast us. Something that will help people long after we're gone. I love that idea." Brianna squeezed his hand. Yes. I'd be honored to co-found this with you. They spent the rest of breakfast brainstorming details. The foundation would be called Second Chances Initiative, to reflect its mission of providing opportunities to people who had faced setbacks. It would start with the tech training program but eventually expand to other areas: scholarships, mentorship, job placement. They would fund it through corporate sponsorships and individual donations, with Summit Tech providing the initial seed money. We should announce it at the company's annual gala in September, Tyler suggested. That's when we reveal major initiatives. It would be the perfect platform to launch this publicly. That's only 2 months away. Can we get everything ready in time? If we work together? Absolutely. They spent July and August in a flurry of activity. During the day they worked on their regular Summit Tech projects. In the evenings and on weekends, they developed the Second Chances Initiative. They wrote mission statements, created budgets, designed programs, reached out to potential partner organizations. It was exhausting and exhilarating. And somewhere in the middle of all that work, Brianna realized she had fallen in love. It happened gradually, then all at once. She noticed it one evening when Tyler was at her apartment, sprawled on her couch with his laptop, working on grant applications while she studied for a final exam. He had reading glasses perched on his nose, which she found ridiculously attractive. He was humming softly to the music playing from her speaker. Every so often he would look up and smile at her just because. That's when it hit her. This was love. Real, deep, lasting love. Not infatuation or gratitude or attraction, though it included all those things. This was the kind of love where you wanted to build a life with someone. Where you could sit in comfortable silence and be completely happy. Where you looked at the future and couldn't imagine it without them in it. The realization was both wonderful and terrifying. She had never been in love before, not really. And loving Tyler felt significant in ways she couldn't fully articulate. He wasn't just her boyfriend. He was her mentor, her partner, her best friend. He had given her everything she had now. What if she lost him? What if this didn't work out? But fear couldn't diminish the joy. She was in love and it was amazing. Tyler seemed to be having similar realizations. He became more affectionate, more open about his feelings. One night in late August, lying together on his couch watching a movie, he turned to her and said, "I love you, Brianna. I know it's fast but I can't keep it in anymore. I love you." "I love you too," she said, the words feeling both huge and simple. "I was just trying to figure out how to tell you." They kissed, slow and deep, the movie forgotten. When they finally pulled apart, Tyler was grinning. "We should probably tell people," he said. "The company, I mean. We've been together for 4 months now. This is serious. I don't want to hide it anymore." "I agree. Let's announce it at the gala when we announce the foundation. Kill 2 birds with 1 stone." "You sure?" "It's going to create gossip. People will have opinions. Let them. I'm proud to be with you. I'm not ashamed of this." Tyler pulled her close, kissing her forehead. "Have I mentioned lately that you're the best thing that ever happened to me?" "Once or twice. But I don't mind hearing it again." The weeks leading up to the gala were busy. Brianna finished her summer semester classes with straight A's. Tyler finalized the foundation paperwork, making both their names equal co-founders. They practiced their presentation together, making sure every detail was perfect. The night before the gala, Tyler took Brianna shopping for a dress. She protested that she could wear something she already owned, but he insisted. "This is a huge night for both of us," he said. "We're launching a foundation. We're going public with our relationship. You deserve to feel amazing." They went to an elegant boutique where a personal stylist helped Brianna find the perfect dress. A floor-length gown in deep blue that complemented her skin tone beautifully. It was more expensive than anything she had ever owned, but Tyler paid for it without hesitation. "You look like royalty," he said when she modeled it for him. "I feel ridiculous." "You look perfect." The night of the gala arrived. Brianna stood in front of her bathroom mirror, dressed in the blue gown with her hair styled and makeup done professionally. She barely recognized herself. She looked confident, successful, happy. Tyler picked her up at 6, wearing a sharp black suit that made him look even more handsome than usual. His eyes widened when he saw her. "I'm the luckiest man alive," he said simply. They arrived at the gala together, making a statement just by walking in side by side. Brianna could feel eyes on them immediately, people noticing, whispering. She held her head high and kept her hand in Tyler's. The gala was held in a beautiful hotel ballroom, decorated with lights and flowers. 300 people from Summit Tech and partner organizations mingled, drinking champagne and networking. Brianna recognized many faces from work, including Beth, who gave her an enthusiastic thumbs up from across the room. Dinner was served at 8. At 9, Tyler took the stage to give his annual address. Brianna sat at their table, watching him command the room with easy confidence. "Thank you all for being here tonight," Tyler began. "This year has been transformative for Summit Tech. We've launched new products, expanded our partnerships, and grown our team with incredible talent. But tonight, I want to talk about something more personal. Something that represents what I hope this company stands for: opportunity, growth, and the belief that potential matters more than credentials." He paused, looking directly at Brianna. 7 months ago, a janitor walked into my office at 2 in the morning and solved a problem that 5,000 experts couldn't crack. That janitor's name is Brianna Jefferson, and she didn't just save a contract. She reminded me why I started this company in the first place. She reminded me that brilliant people exist everywhere, in every role, if we just pay attention and give them chances. The room was silent, everyone listening intently. Brianna is now one of our top software analysts. She's also become something more important to me, my partner in life and in vision. Together, we've founded the Second Chances Initiative, a program designed to provide tech training and opportunities to people who have faced barriers to education and employment. People like Brianna. People like me. People who just need someone to believe in them. Applause filled the room. Tyler continued explaining the foundation's mission, its programs, its goals. Brianna watched from her seat, overwhelmed with emotion. This was really happening. They were making a difference together. When Tyler finished his speech, he gestured for Brianna to join him on stage. She stood on shaking legs and walked up there, aware of hundreds of eyes watching her. Tyler took her hand and squeezed it. "I also want to announce that Brianna and I are together," he said simply. "We've been dating for 4 months and I'm in love with her. I wanted to share that with all of you because you're not just my colleagues. You're my family. And I hope you'll support us the way you've supported this company." More applause. Brianna saw some surprised faces but mostly smiling ones. Beth was wiping tears from her eyes. Even some of the executives who Brianna had been nervous about were clapping and nodding approval. Tyler turned to her. "Anything you want to say?" Brianna took the microphone with trembling hands. "Just thank you. To Tyler for giving me a chance. To all of you for welcoming me and helping me grow. And to anyone out there who thinks their current situation defines their future. It doesn't. Keep learning. Keep hoping. Keep being brave enough to walk through doors that intimidate you. You never know what's on the other side." The room erupted in applause again. Tyler pulled her into a hug, right there on stage in front of everyone. When they pulled apart, he was smiling at her with so much love it made her dizzy. They spent the rest of the evening celebrating. People came up to congratulate them on both the foundation and their relationship. The energy in the room was positive, supportive, excited about what was coming next. Later, when the gala was winding down, Tyler took Brianna's hand and led her to a quiet corner of the balcony overlooking the city. "This is just the beginning," he said. "The foundation, us, all of it. We're going to do amazing things together. I know we are." Brianna looked up at him, this man who had changed everything. "I love you. I love you too." They stood together under the stars, dreaming about the future they would build. A future based on kindness, hope, and the belief that everyone deserves a second chance at their dreams. The Second Chances Initiative launched in October with 3 pilot programs in different cities. The response was overwhelming. Applications poured in from people eager for tech training and opportunities. Community centers reported high enrollment. Local news stations covered the story of the Billionaire CEO and his partner who were giving back in such a meaningful way. Brianna divided her time between her regular work at Summit Tech, her classes, and her foundation responsibilities. It was a lot, but she had never been happier. She was making a real difference in people's lives, helping others the way she had been helped. She also completed her bachelor's degree in December, walking across the stage at graduation with Tyler, Beth, and several co-workers cheering loudly from the audience. Tyler had arranged for Harold and Susan, his foster parents, to fly in for the ceremony. They hugged Brianna afterward, treating her like family already. "We're so proud of you," Susan said, tears in her eyes. "Tyler hasn't stopped talking about you since the day you walked into his office. We can see why. He talks about you both all the time too," Brianna said. "Thank you for raising such a good man." "We just gave him support," Harold said. "He did the rest himself. Same as you're doing." The winter passed in a blur of activity. The foundation expanded to 5 cities by January. Tyler and Brianna appeared together at conferences and events, talking about their vision for accessible technology education. Summit Tech continued to thrive, with several new contracts secured partly based on the positive PR from the foundation work. And their relationship deepened. They moved in together in February, finding a house that felt like home to both of them. They adopted a rescue dog named Apollo. They created routines and traditions: Saturday morning farmers market visits, Sunday evening movie nights, cooking dinner together whenever they both got home at a reasonable hour. It was March when Tyler surprised her again. They were having a quiet dinner at home when he suddenly got nervous, fumbling with his fork and losing his train of thought mid-sentence. "What's wrong?" Brianna asked, concerned. "Nothing's wrong. Everything's right. That's the thing. Everything is so right with us and I." He stood up from the table and pulled a small box from his pocket. "I didn't plan this for tonight. I was going to wait, do something elaborate. But I can't wait anymore." Brianna's heart stopped. Tyler got down on one knee. "Brianna Jefferson, you walked into my life at my lowest moment and saved everything. Not just my company but my belief that good people exist in the world. You're brilliant and kind and strong, and I want to spend every day for the rest of my life loving you. Will you marry me?" Tears streamed down Brianna's face. "Yes. Yes, absolutely yes." Tyler slipped the ring on her finger, a beautiful simple band with a single diamond, elegant and perfect. Then he stood and pulled her into his arms, kissing her while she cried happy tears. "I love you so much," he said against her hair. "Thank you for saying yes. I love you too. How could I say anything else?" They spent the rest of the evening calling friends and family with the news. Beth screamed so loudly Tyler had to hold the phone away from his ear. Harold and Susan cried. The group chat with Brianna's Summit Tech friends exploded with congratulations and heart emojis. The next morning at work, word spread quickly. By lunch, half the company knew. People stopped by Brianna's office all day to congratulate her, genuinely happy for both of them. The relationship that had started in private had become a celebration that everyone wanted to be part of. They got married 6 months later in September, exactly 2 years after the night Brianna had walked into that conference room and changed both their lives. The wedding was held outdoors at a beautiful garden venue, with 300 guests including everyone from Summit Tech, foundation partners, and people whose lives had been changed by the Second Chances initiative. Brianna wore a white dress that made her feel like a princess. Tyler wore a black suit and cried when he saw her walking down the aisle. Harold officiated the ceremony, his voice shaking with emotion as he talked about how proud he was of both of them. "Tyler was a scared 14-year-old kid when we first met him," Harold said during his speech. "He didn't trust anyone. He thought the world was a cruel place. But love changed him. Susan's love. And now Brianna's love. They proved to him that kindness exists, that hope is real, that good things happen to people who open their hearts." Brianna looked at Tyler, standing next to her holding her hands. He was crying openly, not caring who saw. She was crying too. "I promise to love you forever," Tyler said when it was time for vows. "To support your dreams, celebrate your victories and stand by you through challenges. You made me believe in second chances. Now let me spend my life giving you everything you deserve." "I promise to love you with my whole heart," Brianna said, her voice steady despite her tears. "To build our future together, to always be honest and to never forget where we came from. You gave me my life back. Now I give you all of me forever." They exchanged rings, kissed to thunderous applause, and walked back down the aisle as husband and wife. The reception that followed was full of laughter, dancing, speeches that made everyone cry, and joy that radiated from every corner of the room. Beth gave a maid of honor speech that had everyone in tears. "I watched these two dance around their feelings for months. I watched Brianna try to convince herself she was just being professional. I watched Tyler try to hide how completely gone he was. And I'm so grateful they finally figured it out because they're perfect together. They make each other better. They inspire everyone around them. And they prove that love isn't about grand gestures. It's about showing up, being honest, and choosing each other every single day." The dancing went late into the night. Brianna and Tyler swayed together under string lights, surrounded by everyone they loved. At one point, Tyler pulled back to look at her. "Happy?" he asked. "Happier than I knew was possible." "Good. That's all I want. Your happiness. I want the same for you. You already gave it to me. 2 years ago when you walked through that door. You changed everything." "We changed everything," Brianna corrected. "Together." They kissed again, sealing the promise they had made. A promise to build a life based on love, kindness, and the belief that everyone deserves chances. A promise to never forget where they came from or the lessons they learned along the way. The night ended with sparklers and laughter. Tyler and Brianna drove away to their honeymoon with tin cans tied to their car bumper and "Just Married" written on the back window. Behind them, their friends and family celebrated, already looking forward to all the good things this couple would do together. 5 years later, the Second Chances initiative had expanded to 25 cities and helped over 10,000 people gain tech skills and employment. Brianna had become the foundation's executive director, working full-time on the program she and Tyler had created. Summit Tech continued to thrive, leading the industry in innovation and ethical practices. Tyler and Brianna had a daughter named Hope, who inherited her mother's brilliant mind and her father's kind heart. They raised her in a home filled with love and books and rescue dogs and the understanding that everyone deserves to be seen, heard, and given opportunities. Sometimes, on quiet evenings, Brianna would think back to that night 2 years before she met Tyler. The night she stood outside Summit Tech Industries, afraid to walk through the door. The night she almost let fear win. She thought about the choice she made. To be brave for just one moment. To speak up when everything told her to stay silent. To believe she had value even when her uniform said otherwise. That one choice had changed everything. Led to a career she loved. A man she adored. A foundation that helped others the way she had been helped. A life full of purpose and meaning and joy. And that was the lesson she hoped to teach her daughter and everyone who heard their story. Kindness creates opportunities. Hope opens doors. Love builds futures. And sometimes, the courage to take one step forward is all you need to change your entire life.